Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Boston Borough Council Planning Committee. My name is Councillor David Middleton. I am the chairman of this committee, and Councillor David Scoult is my vice chairman. Before we move to the agenda, I would invite our officers supporting this meeting to introduce themselves. David is from our legal department.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is David Kerfoot. I'm a solicitor with Lincolnshire Legal Services. I'm here to advise you today.
Hello, my name's Lauren Birkwood. I'm Principal Planning Officer.
Good morning, Abby Marwood, Deputy Development Manager.
Good morning, members. Mike Gildersleeves, Assistant Director for Planning.
Carol Honest, Committee Clerk. Thank you.
Moving on to our housekeeping rules, restroom facilities are available on this floor for the ladies and halfway down the main stairwell for gentlemen. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, officers will escort everyone to the nearest safety point in the rear car park. Please ensure when you are addressing this meeting that you do so through the microphone system at all times. Members of the public are free to leave the meeting at any time, and our support officers will escort you downstairs. And finally, please be advised that abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who is deemed to breach this requirement will be warned and asked to refrain, and if the behaviour persists, they will be asked to leave the meeting. We will now move on into part one of the agenda and address the preliminary items. To receive apologies for absence and notification of any substitutions.
Thank you, Chairman. We have 3 apologies this morning from Councillors Alison Austin, Peter Bedford and Stephen Woodliff. No substitute members. Thank you.
To sign the minutes of the last meeting held on 12th of September 23. Do I have committee's agreement to sign these, please? Is it it? Do I date it for? Okay. Before we move to individual declarations of interest in respect of any items on this agenda, I will ask Rhonda to give the standing declarations.
Thank you, Chairman. For public information, I would confirm that standing declarations of interest will be recorded within the minutes for this meeting for all committee members who are also members of Lincolnshire County Council, the South East Lincolnshire Joint Strategic Planning Committee and representatives of the Internal Drainage Boards. Thank you.
Does any member of the committee have any further declaration of interest to make in respect of any item on this agenda, please?
Thank you, Chair. I would declare that I was not in attendance at the Planning Committee meeting held on the 6th of June 2023, at which planning application B220491 was deferred by the committee for additional information. As such, I have not received the original presentation of the application, nor the representation received by public speakers at that meeting, and I am unaware of the committee deliberation which took place. Therefore, I will declare I will not take part in any final decision making on that item today.
Thank you. I would declare that I was not in attendance either at the Planning Committee meeting held on the 6th of June 2023, at which planning application B220491 was deferred by the committee for additional information. As such, I haven't received the original presentation of the application nor the representation received by public speakers at that meeting, and I'm unaware of the committee deliberation which took place. Therefore, I would declare that I will not take part in any final decision making on that item today.
Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you. To receive any written questions from members of the public?
No questions, Chairman.
That concludes the preliminary items, and we will now move into part 2 of the agenda and receive the reports tabled. Before that, I just have to make a declaration, I think. Before we move to consider planning application B220491, I would like to provide a point of order on this item, which is from our legal officer for planning and is based on planning legislation and the Constitution of Boston Borough Council. In determining a planning application, members are required to have regard of all the material planning considerations, and this is established in principle, which has been upheld by the courts in planning decision making. In deferring the application for specific reasons, it is now being brought back to members for an update on that additional information that members sought. The meeting is not a whole repeat of determining the application, but a conclusion to the debate that began in June. The officer's report to the committee focuses on the new or clarified information, and the speakers should also focus on these issues. Any member who was not present at the June meeting missed the officer's presentation, the public speakers and questions to the public speakers, along with their colleagues' debate in the matter thus far, all of which are material planning considerations that members need in order to be able to make a sound decision on the application, and none of which from the June meeting will be repeated at this meeting. So our first item of business today is planning application B220491 on page 7 and will be presented by our planning officer, Lauren Birkwood.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is an application for a proposed two-storey dwelling for an essential worker at Lincolnshire Firewood and Coal in Wibberton. So the application was deferred for additional information in relation to the turnover of the business, the character and appearance, other options, the agricultural shed on the adjacent land, and the flood risk. So just running through the slides again. So this is the site location plan. So the dwelling would be located within the adjacent field to the west of Lincolnshire Firewood and Coal. And again, just another site location plan. And a block plan showing where the dwelling would be located. And again, another proposed site plan showing the layout of the proposed dwelling with the existing access used. And this is elevations of the proposed dwelling, which would be 2 stories and have a single-storey extension to the rear. And again, this is showing the floor plans of the proposed dwelling, and it would have 4 bedrooms. And again, this is just showing images of the site. So the site is located within this area here and would utilise the existing access. And again, the dwelling would be located to the left of this photo here, utilising the existing access, and would be adjacent to the existing dwelling to the right. And this is just looking down the street on Wibberton Road, with existing properties located to the left. And again, just looking down Wibberton Road, located within the open countryside. So this is a site location showing the approved agricultural building. As you can see, it's outlined here where my mouse is, and the current application for the dwelling located there, and just showing some photos of the building. As you can see, it's agricultural in nature. So just again, looking at the overall history of the site. So the Lincolnshire Firewood and Coal plantation is located at the rear. The proposed application site is located within the Western Agricultural Field. A proposed 4-bedroom dwelling was approved in 2008, located here. And another 4-bedroom dwelling was approved in 2016, located here, with neighbouring properties located to the right. And just the context of the application site. As you can see, the application site is located over here, and we're just showing here in this map other proposed housing developments that have been approved nearby, including the Quadrant and Heron Park. So just looking at overall the further information that we have received, I just would like to note that we have received additional information which asks questions, and you should have it in front of you, including the second item. However, it does not raise anything further. So just going through the report and the points that we have discussed. So firstly, account details have been provided by the applicant, which includes the turnover of the company in 2022 tax year, and that the company has a sound financial footing. The applicant has, The applicant has provided further information in relation to the activities and processes undertaken on the site, which is outlined in paragraph 6.4 of the report. In terms of the need for the accommodation, the applicant has provided justification, which includes certain general business management and the health and safety incidents that have occurred on their Norfolk work site, which occurred due to lone working. The information states that for the most part, the applicant can cover operations through the 2 employees that already live on the site, and that the proposed dwelling is for covering holiday absence or sickness, etc., and not a regular need for the business. It is therefore still considered that the need for an additional worker would not justify an additional permanent dwelling in the countryside location. Whilst the risk of lone working are acknowledged, it is considered that alternative ways to provide sickness and holiday cover can be achieved. It was previously recognised that the development would encroach onto the agricultural field and countryside, which in turn would have a detrimental impact upon the character and appearance of the countryside. Further justification as to why the development is situated in this location, other areas within the site that have been considered, and why the dwelling is the size and scale that has been presented by the applicant is outlined in paragraph 6.11 of the report. However, it's still considered that a 2-storey dwelling that encroaches into the adjacent field will impact the openness of the countryside and would not accord with local plan policies. It was discussed at the previous planning meeting that other options should also be reviewed that would enable a 3rd essential worker be available when needed, and to cover the periods of time when the existing 2 members of staff who live within the site are not available. Further information provided by the applicant is noted in paragraph 6.14 of the report, including that competent employees are required. However, previously noted, there are a range of existing dwellings for sale or rent under 2 miles from the development, and it also considered that there are other ways that this cover can be achieved. For example, shift pattern overtime, or a type of temporary accommodation within the site to provide additional cover if someone is ill or away, etc. Discussions were undertaken at the planning meeting also around the shed that was accepted under a prior notification application within the Western agricultural field. The building is for agricultural use in an agricultural landscaping setting in the open countryside. It is therefore considered that a 2-storey dwelling would appear alien in this location. And although there would be an agricultural building nearby, it would not reduce the harm the dwelling would have on the character and appearance of the open countryside. In terms of flood risk, the applicant submitted a revised flood risk assessment, which includes sufficient mitigation measures. This has been reviewed by the Environment Agency, and they have withdrawn their previous objection. However, the assessment does still not include a successful sequential test to demonstrate that sites are at lesser risk of flooding are unavailable. It is therefore considered there are available plots and allocated plots within the development boundaries that are at lesser risk of flooding within suitable sustainable location in line with the requirements of the National Planning Policy Framework and the local plan. So therefore, in summary, it is still considered that the proposal does not meet the requirements of Policy 1 of the local plan. The evidence presented does not demonstrate that the proposal is necessary to its location or that the development would not have a detrimental effect on the open countryside character and appearance of the area by virtue of encroachment. It is still considered that the business does not constitute a farm or agricultural business, and as a successful sequential test has not been provided, the proposal, by virtue of its location within the countryside and within flood zone 3, would be harmful conflicts with the fundamental elements of the local plan and the NPPF. We therefore recommend refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lauren. We do have speakers on this, and our first speaker is Mr. Giles Crust, who is speaking in support of this application. Would you come forward, please, to the table? Committee, you will find in front of you a copy of the map which was submitted by Mr. Crust, which has already been sent to you. It is provided in hard copy should you need to reference it during the representation. Mr. Crust, once your time is up, please remain at the speakers table to answer any questions the committee members may have for you. Okay, I think it's over to you, and you have your 5 minutes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me speak in support of this application today. I would like to point out that there is no statutory objection to this application. The EA have accepted the flood risk assessment published on your website on the 5th of September and have lifted their objection. It is still claimed it did not pass the sequential test. If the application passes the EA flood risk policy and is required for an essential worker, it should be approved, as this is the only place the house could be built to allow what is required. On page 5 of the flood risk assessment published on your website, the EA accepted the 5-kilometre radius sequential test before lifting their objection. In an appeal in 2021 for 2 houses in Frithville, just outside your area, the inspector determined a radius of 3 to 4 kilometres was acceptable. We provided 5 kilometres. There is no high ground in that search area. The nearest high ground is Sibsey. At the last meeting, a suggestion was made to relocate a worker into someone else's house when they were on holiday or ill. Fortunately, that has been treated accordingly and removed from the report. The application has been registered for just over a year now, and in that time, no objection has been raised until your supplementary agenda was produced, which included a document from Mr. Taylor. There is no address, no date, or any planning reason for this objection. Mr. Taylor was given the opportunity to address the committee today, but declined. Perhaps he did not want his true identity or purpose made public. It is also not shown on the council's website. It would be interesting to know the real reason for this objection. I hope you will all be as horrified as I was when I read and looked where the author was coming from. They are implying that there is no reason for a manual worker to be allowed to live in a decent family property, but should live in a temporary caravan or sleep in a sleeping bag in the corner of a shed. We're in 2023, not 1873. 150 years ago, it was commonplace for these type of labourers to be grateful for a 2-up, 2-down terraced house, outside toilet and a tin bath in front of the fire on a Friday night. Not so in 2023. I hope you will also take on board my revulsion at the sentiments in that document and allow a decent family home to be built for a full-time worker and their family to live in a comfortable rented home. I have a feeling if the application was put in by somebody like Sir James Dyson for the Beeswax Farming Company, it would have been greeted as progress and a charitable gesture. This complex is a multi-million-pound enterprise providing sustainable fuel to heat homes, and it has to comply with complex government regulations. This is not expansion, but done for health and safety and to provide a decent standard of living for an essential full-time worker who will work full-time on site but be required to take turns at nighttime duties of refueling the kilns and removal and refilling of them when the wood has reached the required moisture level. The plan on your agenda is wrong as it omits the 2 agricultural sheds, but that has been shown, the plan in front of you. One is built and the other foundations are in. The height of the sheds are 8 metres to the ridge, virtually the same as the application in front of you. The erected shed was approved in June 2022, and the more recent one, twice as big, was approved on the 6th of October this year, 2 months ago, after the last meeting. As you will see from your supplementary agenda, they shield the house from any site from open countryside. I would ask you to support this application to send a message that this council wants investment in the Boston area. I will be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Do members have any questions for Mr. Crust? Thank you for your representation, and you can return to your seat. The next speaker today is Mr. Evans Jenkins, who is speaking at the applicant. Mr. Jenkins, would you care to come forward, please? Mr. Jenkins, once your time is up, please remain at the speakers table to answer any questions the committee members may have for you. Do members have any? Sorry, Miss.
It's very hard to find people to work full-time in Lincolnshire, especially skilled people. A constant battle for our business is to keep skilled staff. We worked it out since the last meeting, and it costs over £20,000 to train a member of our staff. Forklifts, teleporters, high-ab licenses, all the different training they need. It costs an absolute fortune. When you can't retain those staff, it becomes very difficult. You know, we're working as a free training agency rather than actually facilitating our business. The government regulations, which we didn't ask for, have made our life very, very difficult. All the wood has to be dried below 20% moisture. There's very strict penalties if it's not below 20% moisture. The kiln drying times have increased nearly double, not quite double, but nearly double. It means a lot more transferring of wood in and out of kilns, a lot more time spent watching the kilns, running the kilns, maintaining the temperatures. We can't get staff to travel 2 miles to come and do a half-an-hour job and then go back again. It's just not fair. They spend more time on the road travelling than what they do actually doing the job. And the idea of having 2 members of staff sitting in a canteen all night to do that job is ridiculous in itself. You know, we need somebody on site. It's absolutely critical that we have somebody on site that can take up this job when people are on holiday. Just a holiday of a member of staff, you take 2, you've got 8 weeks. That's without anybody being ill, any time off for any other reasons, you know. And it's so easy to walk out of your door, go and do a job for 10 or 15 minutes and go back again, whereas to get in a car, travel, we can't get the staff to do it. They don't want to do it. They won't do it. So we need people on site where, you know, it's not such a job for them. And the thought of having somebody sat in a caravan in the middle of winter, especially in the weather that we're just having at the moment, it's just ridiculous. Would any of you want to sit in a caravan? Because I know I wouldn't, you know. And I just feel that what's being expected of my staff and the conditions that you expect them to endure, how am I going to get to keep any staff? How am I going to get staff who want to come and work for me to be thrown in a caravan, can't get out of their wet clothes, whatever? It's just not right. And then the suggestion at the last meeting that if somebody goes on holiday, that's fine, we'll just chuck them out of their house, put somebody else in their house. I mean, how ridiculous. It's absolutely wrong. And I sat in the last meeting and I had to listen to people saying things which are absolutely not true. And because I'd finished my time speaking, I couldn't speak out against it. But on this occasion, if things are being said like it's all right to throw your staff out of your house while they go on holiday, I will be raising my hand, and at which point at least you'll know that what's being said isn't true. But I need the support of the council, otherwise we can't continue to do what we do. You know, we do £4.5 million worth of firewood a year. There's nobody in this area in East Anglia that does that. And we need a member of staff there to help us do it, because we can't carry on how we're doing it at the moment, people travelling all through the night and then being expected to work the next day. It's not possible. We need the support of the council. And, you know, I don't know what else I can say, really. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that. Has any member got any questions?
Mr. Chair, the report states that your boilers, the kilns vary between 2 to 4 hours on requiring the wood to dry.
Yeah.
But then you just mentioned that the burn time has increased to get below 20. So has that figure increased?
No, the kiln. Sorry, am I on? Yeah, the kiln time. So whereas we would dry the wood for maybe 2 days previously, because we were aiming for 22 to 25% moisture, now we have to dry it for more like 4 or 5. Just to get that extra bit out of the wood takes a tremendous amount of energy. So it takes a lot longer, which is why we're running more kilns than we ever used to run.
Councillor Pierpoint.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask you a question about long term? How do you see your business growing and developing long term in the conditions that you're working at the moment?
I don't wish to have my business grow beyond what it is now. It's as much as what I can cope with, but I want to maintain our position where we are. And because of the government regulation, we were in a very good position prior to the government regulations coming in. And because they've come in, it's now put more pressure on us where we need to spend a lot more time drying, a lot more time moving stuff in the kilns, which we never foresaw. I don't want to expand my business. I want to stay where I am because I can't do any more than what I'm doing. But I want to maintain my current position, which I'm struggling to do.
I'd like to ask you a question. I believe your business is two-site business.
Say again, sorry.
You've got another site in Norfolk.
No, we shut the site in Norfolk because we had a fatality there from somebody who was lone working, and we took the decision to shut the site in Norfolk and bring that business back to Lincolnshire, and we now run that business out of Lincolnshire. So the lorries, instead of transporting the material to Norfolk and then reloading it onto smaller lorries, we load the smaller lorries in Lincolnshire and they travel to Norfolk every morning. So we've shut that site in Norfolk.
Right. So your turnover is purely from one site?
Yes, purely from the Boston site, yeah. Okay. But across 4 companies. So we have Lincolnshire Firewood. That's actually 5 companies. We have Lincolnshire Firewood, National Firewood, DD Dodds, Newton and Sims, National Coal, and yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You can return to your seat now, and I think our next speaker is Richard Austin, Councillor Richard Austin.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak as ward member, and it's in this role, of course, that I know the applicant. This company has a multi-million-pound turnover, is locally owned, and Mr. Jenkins has grown it from scratch. Any profits benefit the local economy and are not drained off elsewhere in the UK or offshore. It is a local business we should be facilitating and encouraging. It is sited in an appropriate place with no complaints, as far as I know, for transport working hours or for the amenity of the area. And this type of business is almost always located in a countryside location. It serves as a valuable service to the local area and the local environment. It is highly sustainable and helps to reduce our carbon footprint, which, as you will know, is an important part of this council's corporate priority. The wood comes from tree surgeons who are working on roadsides and in gardens. Other logs arrive in 20.4 metre bars from woods in the area where trees are replanted. These are then processed into dried logs for local sale. And log burning as a means of domestic heating is a growing trend. For much of the year, the business works 24/7. Forklifts are constantly in use, and it needs to be stressed that lone working is not an option for health and safety reasons. And as you've heard, several years ago, the company suffered a fatality on a Norfolk site where lone working was a factor. May I now focus your attention on the house? Like much of this country, we are short of housing in this area, and one more can only help. For those of you who have recently viewed the site, will have seen that there is a huge new building immediately behind the proposed site of the house, and it is for housing agricultural machinery. This building is 8 meters high, and it dominates the plot of the proposed house. The planning permission for this, as you've heard, was granted in June 22, and construction has been ongoing for most of this year. These are permanent structures. You will have noted the small size and shape of the plot between the building and the roadside hedge, and this makes it unsuitable for crop production in view of the large size of machinery used by farmers for cultivation, drilling and harvesting these days. For these reasons, I am at a loss to know why the proposed site is being described as encroaching into open countryside. If you have any doubts about this matter, I do recommend that the application is deferred and a site visit is arranged. I don't think the photographs we've seen this morning give you a real feeling for the domination of those buildings on the plot where the house is to be sited. Finally, I have some general observations to make. The Lincolnshire Firewood Company is a busy, vibrant business. For much of the year, it is working full bore round the clock. Constant care and attention to detail are core requirements, as they are with many livestock farms. It is a unique and specialist business that we should be very pleased to have in Boston. Furthermore, I can fully understand why it is very desirable to have 3 well-trained and experienced staff living on site and easily available at all times. With this committee's support, this company has a bright and sustainable future. My hope is that the committee will feel able to support this important business by approving the application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. Do we have members wishing to speak or ask Mr. Councillor Austin any questions? Councillor Austin, you described these existing agricultural barns as dominating the area.
Yes.
So therefore, we've got agricultural buildings dominating this immediate zone where we're suspecting we want to build a house to house people. And yet you're trying to sort of say that it's almost a farm because it has the same detail as looking after livestock. I don't quite, you seem to be contradicting yourself that this area is agricultural, but then you want to say it's not really, but so we can put a house in.
What I'm saying is just that immediate area, it will be dominated by the existing agricultural building, and there's 2 more, or another section, as you'll see from the plan, being now being built, and the house will fit in and will hardly be noticed because your eye will be taken by these huge buildings at the back of the house. That's what I'm saying, and it certainly if you haven't seen these buildings in the last day or two, then I do implore you to go and have a look and have a site visit.
Well, thank you. You do seem to have confirmed that it's definitely agricultural land. You continually say that. Are there any more questions? Councillor Pierpoint? Not at the moment. Mike Gildersleeves, would you like to make comment?
No, I think if we're moving into debate now, Chair, I'm happy to pick up, as officers will, any questions that members may have as we go through.
Okay. Thank you. And Councillor Austin, you have to be thrown out now.
I have narrow duties.
Oh, and by the way, Councillor Austin, please take our best wishes to Councillor Alison Austin.
I will.
And we wish her all the best. Okay, well, Councillor Pierpoint, we are now open to discussion.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I will not take any notice of Steve Taylor's email because we don't know who this character is or is a real person at all. So I'll ignore the questions asked on that paper. I can't work on that basis. Here we have a business, in my view, that's trying to sustain itself. It's trying to keep going. It's trying to provide for its employees. It's a very specialist business. To me, I support the fact that these people should have this building. I feel that, to me, a business needs support and help. We are in the countryside, but there's other buildings in that area as well. I don't think it's all agricultural in my mind. So I disagree with people who think it is. I feel that we're putting too many barriers in the way. They've gone out of their way to provide all the information that we've asked for. And I would hate to think that that business suffered because we're not supporting it in the way we should be. So therefore, I don't accept the refusal. I'd rather say that I would support the application. Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Chairman. Will an agricultural restriction order be placed on this building?
Through yourself, Chairman. Councillor Brown, in the event that a recommendation was put forward and seconded for approval, then I would look to secure delegations from you where we would look to impose such a condition to restrict it. It wouldn't be restricted to agricultural, but it would be a similar principle that would be approached.
Right,
and the wording of that would then fall to officers as usual.
Thank you.
Jyoti, would you like to comment?
This is a query really. How much rent do they charge for this property? You know, there are already two properties for the employees, I heard. And can the employees actually afford a 4-bedroom new property in that site? So it's just a question.
Through yourself again, Chair. The answer, Councillor, is we don't know. We haven't been provided with that information.
If you would like to comment, but please restrict your comments to the question addressed to you.
Our employees are charged £100 a week rent for their house, irrespective of whether it's 4 or 3 bedrooms, whatever it is, and that includes the heating, which is provided by the biomass boiler on the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do fully understand the owners' issues around finding staff and where they're going to live. My main concern is we put one there. How many more are we going to get there? This is on open countryside, and that's what concerns me.
Mr. Evans, would you like to comment? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's a general planning point, Chairman. It's not a specific question. The council, sorry, excuse me, Chairman. With regard to the rent question, that was a specific point of information that a councillor had asked for. Whether or not there is a proliferation of this type of dwelling is simply a planning consideration that all members will need to take into account. It's not a specific matter in relation to this business. Therefore, whilst I was agreeable through you, Chairman, to allow a specific response, if we allow Mr. Evans to reply to every single question, all we are doing is reopening the debate.
I accept your advice. Sorry, Mr. Evans. Anybody else want to comment? I have to say, for my own opinion, is very much in line with Councillor Rylett. We see a lot of applications, and we've refused several in recent times, wanting to move into countryside and build a dwelling in there, into pastures and agricultural land. And I find it difficult to make an exception and encourage more people to bring these applications forward to build on green belt and agricultural land. So that's my view.
Through yourself, Chair, just to clarify for the committee that this isn't green belt in terms of a location. We don't have such a designation, but just for the record, just to be really clear, it's an open countryside location, but it is not green belt. Just needed to pick that up.
Mr. Chairman, we're talking about one property here, not talking about inviting applications to come in and build lots of houses in that area. We're talking about one property for one business, and that's where I'm coming from. And this business is struggling because it hasn't got the right facilities for its staff. And I think that one building is fine on the basis it's going to help this business to maintain itself and be sustainable going forward. Thank you.
Any further comments?
With no motions on the table at this time, Chairman, did you want to speak, Mike? Sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify where we are. So as it currently stands, the officer recommendation is recommended for approval. I believe it was leading to sorry for refusal. The indication from Councillor Pierpoint would be that he would be supportive of an approval, but there is no formal proposal or seconder for either recommendation at this moment in time, Chair. So as it stands, you're currently still within debate and looking for a motion from the floor.
Councillor Pierpoint.
I'd like to propose that we accept the application as it stands, Chairman.
Again, through yourself, Chairman. So we've got a proposal to move approval from Councillor Pierpoint. Obviously, it is contrary to the officer recommendation, so we have to be really clear on reasons for approval because that could be a ground for challenge. So just reaffirming what I understand as your position, Councillor Pierpoint. You recognise that this is a successful and specialist business in an established location, that you are supportive of that business growth. And you consider that the impact of one additional property in this location would be acceptable. I'm content that that deals with points 1 and 3 of the refusal. but we still have the issue of the sequential test on that. So do you have any further comments you'd like to make in respect of the sequential test and the flood risk considerations?
According to Mr. Jenkins, they passed the flood test according to the website of the Boston Borough Council. And I think that was all acceptable, as far as I understand from the conversations I heard.
Again, to yourself, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, so the Environment Agency won't comment on the sequential test. That is a matter for us as the local authority to determine whether we're satisfied that test has been completed. Now, what you heard was that a search area was proposed of 5 kilometres, and the indication from the applicant being that there are no other suitable dwellings given this is tied to an essential need. From an officer perspective, we don't consider that as sufficient, but as members, you may have a different view, but I'd welcome your thoughts.
I'm happy to accept the recommendation from the speaker on behalf of Mr. Jenkins. I think he thoroughly went into detail about other areas, and I'm quite happy what he said. So as far as I'm concerned, we've passed the test. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't mean this to be ping pong. Taking on board of those, I'm happy that members have articulated sufficient reasons for approval. I would, if this is carried, Councillor Pierpoint request that delegation is given to officers to impose such conditions as are deemed necessary and appropriate for this development, and that would include a specific condition that seeks to regulate and restrict the occupancy of the dwelling in line with the sentiment of Councillor Brown. Are you happy for those to be incorporated?
I accept that, Mike.
Okay. My final piece before I shut up then is to say, whilst I accept those reasons for approval and I accept the recommendation, I have to sell the health warning that comes with that and the risks, so that you're fully aware. Obviously, as our legal advisor said earlier, we may end up with future applications of a similar nature, which seek to utilise similar arguments. We do believe we've got current strong planning grounds, and hence the reasons for refusal that are before you. I'll leave it there because I think we've rehearsed and debated the arguments both first time round and here today. So I think, Chairman, you can move to a vote on that basis.
Thank you, Chairman. If we're happy, it's been moved by Councillor Barry Pierpoint, seconded by Councillor Lena Zavikian, that committee grant the application contrary to officer recommendation. Mr. Gildersleeves has run through the reasons and both have agreed the delegations and the reason for. So would all members in favour of granting this application contrary to officer recommendation please clearly show in favour? 3. That's 3 in favour. Those against, please clearly show. 3. 5. That motion has fallen, Chairman. Thank you.
So just to clarify where we are now, Mr. Chairman, that motion has fallen. So we essentially go back into debate, and we're looking for an alternative motion from the floor.
Well, I'll propose that we go in line with the officer's recommendation of a refusal. Do we have a seconder? Yeah.
We're clear to move to the vote again, Chairman. Thank you. It's been moved by the Chairman, Councillor David Middleton, and seconded by Councillor Suzanne Welbury, that committee refuse the application in line with the officer recommendation for the reasons given therein. All in favour of refusal, please clearly show. 2, 3, 4, 5. And against refusal, please clearly show. That motion has gone through, Chairman. The application is refused with 5 votes in favour and 3 votes against. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for that. Quite emotive subject. We now move on with our business. Our next item is the receipt of appeal decision report, which is on page 17 of the agenda. And this is tabled for noting and will be presented by our Deputy Development Manager, Abby Marwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the report is mainly for information. It just details the number of appeals that we've had since the February 2023, which was the last update to committee. We've had 4 appeals. All 4 of those have been dismissed by the Planning Inspectorate, which means the refusals have been upheld in favour of Boston Borough Council. They're all very similar. 3 of them relate to single dwellings in the countryside. 1 of them relates to up to 8 dwellings in the countryside. Reasons for refusal include being contrary to policy 1, being located outside of a settlement boundary, impacts upon the open countryside, and failure to demonstrate a sequential test and therefore unacceptable on flood risk. All of those reasons have been upheld by the Planning Inspectorate. So all in all, that gives us 100% record in terms of our appeal performance since the last update. So it's just there for members to note, and the appeal decisions are attached if anyone would like to have a read through the detailed Inspectorate's conclusions on those applications. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, brings back just what we've been talking about, I think. That. Our final report is the additional report, which is on your placements in hard copy format and has already been issued to you. This report is an update of planning legislation and again is for noting and will be presented by Abby Marwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Yep, again, another report for members' information. It just details some upcoming legislation changes, including the increase in planning fees, which comes in tomorrow. A little bit of detail around the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act, bringing in a number of changes to the planning system. Details biodiversity net gain, which is due to come into effect in January 2024. It's just there for members' information and awareness that these are legislative changes that will be coming into effect and to be aware of in terms of making decisions going forwards. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody, any questions for Abby on those points? Okay, well, I think that concludes our business.